This is a very special discussion we've planned for our viewers today on the sector which is entertainment and media, gaming. This is a very important sector of all of us consume it on a daily basis. But in the last 2 years of pandemic, we saw a big surge in consumption. We also saw a lot of deals happen in this sector. So today we have a very special guest to talk more about entertainment, media and gaming. From Deloitte India, we have Jehil Thakker joining us on the show to share key trends and map the roadmap for this particular sector going forward. Jehil, of course, is the sector leader and a senior partner at Deloitte India. Jehil, good afternoon and thank you so much for your time this afternoon on ET Now. Jehil, first of all, you've been tracking the space for such a long time and worked very closely with some of the majors in this space. What triggered, of course, pandemic triggered a wave of consumption, but the way deals are happening, there is so much of innovation. There seemed to be a complete transformation of this entire sector. What are your initial thoughts before we get into specifics?
Mr. Ajay, you're absolutely right. The sector had started innovating, with the coming of streaming, with data becoming so cheap. That was a major catalyst for change in the sector. Gaming is becoming ubiquitous with the spread of smartphones. And all this had been happening even before the pandemic. But really the pandemic was the catalyst that really drove growth over the last 2-3 years. I mean, projections that we had made for, 2025, 2026, the consumption, the adoption just accelerated. So things we were thinking will happen, 3, 4, 5 years down the line has all happened in the last 2 years. And that, in a sense, has also changed strategic thinking amongst the players in the industry. And now there is, you see increased investments, deal making, etc., in order to take advantage of these changed consumer patterns. And, the future is here in a sense.
Right. Jehil, let's break it down piece by piece and look at how things are happening. I mean, if you just look at the headlines of some of the key players lately, everybody is taking, ad rates are going up. People are talking about growth once again, even the legacy companies. Of course, digital content consumption has also, gone through the roof. How are things in traditional media and their digital, extensions first?
So, like you said, things are indeed better in traditional media. So if you look at the popular narrative that was going on once, OTT came about, saying, look, traditional media is dead, and we sometimes tend to look to the West for a lot of our models and saying, look, there's a lot of cord cutting going on, etc., which, my belief is not going to happen in India. Linear television will continue to live alongside streaming, for a couple of reasons. I think one is that we are still a majority, 90% plus, a single television household country. So families will watch television together. And when they want to watch individual programming, they'll go off to their phones and view streaming content. So we will coexist in both universes at the same time. And even today for advertisers, if you take traditional linear television, it is still the cheapest medium to reach a mass audience, for an awareness campaign, a branding campaign, in the cheapest possible manner. So I think the value proposition of traditional media still exists. And newspapers, if you take, I mean, we are one of the few markets in the world where print media is still growing. Regional media, in fact, still has a lot of promise, and we are. I think the future is bright.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to talk to you about regional because there is a lot of experimentation in genres as far as regional goes. A lot of current legacy companies are going deeper. More investment seem to be flowing on the regional side. What are the key trends there you are observing?
So, this I believe is really going to be the driver, the single force, other than if you take, some of the ecosystem changes like, cheaper data and 5G, etc. coming. But I think the one force that is going to drive growth in the sector is regional media. Consumption patterns have changed. Smartphone adoption has increased. Consumption incomes are going up in smaller towns and the rural areas. Leisure time is also going up. So the consumption as well as the propensity to spend on consumer products, brands, and therefore advertisers are looking to reach these markets. And they're pushing media companies for offerings, saying, look, we need to reach these markets. What can you do for me? And that is spurring a lot of innovation, a lot of content, a lot of new channels in the regional space.
Right. In fact, your point of leisure time reminds me of a international OTT platform which once said in the annual report that my competition is not from other players, my competition is human sleep. So that was the kind of focus they had. Anyways, talking of international content, we also understand that Indians are consuming international content like never before. How do you see that taking shape?
This is such a welcome development. I think the exposure that Indians now have to international content, whether you take Korean, Spanish, we've all seen the performance of some of these shows. I think is also spurring a lot of innovation in the way Indian entertainment is made, because these shows are influencing consumer tastes. While admittedly a lot of consumption of international shows still takes place amongst the SECA urban audiences, but there are shows that are breaking through to wider India and is influencing the way even Indian entertainment is made, which is great for the content ecosystem, because what that does is it takes a piece of Indian content and makes it more palatable to the rest of the world. So the way the treatment is done, the stories are told now appeals to many countries around the world and expands the audiences for our own industry, which creates larger markets and increases India's soft power.
Right. Fair point, Jehil. But, as far as all that growth, innovation is concerned, this also brings in higher competition. How are you analyzing the competitive scenario? How are you analyzing profitability profiles in the various segments, given that competition would be higher now?
Yeah. No, see, you're absolutely right. And I think if we look at competition in a couple of different buckets, I mean, there are certain parts of the industry that are still in their infancy. So if you take streaming, if you take gaming, there are still a multitude of players. For streaming example, we have 40, 50 players, plus regional, foreign, Indian. Even in gaming, we have so many companies. We are largely a mobile gaming based country. However, in some sectors, we have consolidated. So if you take television, for example, I mean, you now have 4 or 5 major companies that have consolidated from a media and entertainment standpoint. Competition is very, very intense, but it's amongst these 4 or 5 players. So if you look at any mature market, when the dust settles, I mean, there are 3 or 4 major players. So that has happened in television. I think in the streaming world, we still have some ways to go. At some point, there will be consolidation. Today, there are customer acquisition wars, price wars. All that will continue, but at some point, the price of staying in the game will become too high for some of the players, and there will be consolidation and there will be exits in streaming. And I think the same thing will start to happen in gaming. So it's very interesting because the entire industry is in 2 stages of maturity at the same time.
Jehil, a quick follow-up on gaming as a segment. We are getting reports that gaming overall now is almost rivaling the movie industry. The growth is very high. A lot of innovation happening, a lot of buyouts happening. We just saw some of the big houses buying out gaming companies to integrate the companies in their own business models. Do you see a lot of M&A, a lot of build startup in the gaming sector, and a lot of overseas money coming into Indian startups and gaming space.
Yes, absolutely. This is probably the hottest space in the media and entertainment sector. Like you said earlier, traditional media and entertainment companies are not just battling each other for consumers' time. It is really, the gaming companies that they're vying for the consumers' attention with. Today, the space is very, very fragmented. Lots of small players, some big players. And India is largely a mobile gaming based country. We don't really have a console gaming sector in India. And if you look at the demographic also that is it's the young people who are gaming. So this is a very attractive demographic for media companies. And yes, there will be a lot of acquisitions. I think you will continue to see newer players come in, both domestic as well as international. I do anticipate the level of investments in this space going through the roof, because not only do we have a lot of engineering and creative talent, but we also have a large market which is essentially untapped today. Revenues are still climbing, but in-app purchases, subscription revenue is very minimal, but the advertising space has really not yet explored the gaming universe. So there's a lot of upside for growth here.
Right. Lastly, Jehil, leave us with your thoughts on some of the predictions you have for 2022 for each of these segments. Some numbers, if you could share with us, the kind of data which you're picking up on ground, talking to these companies, looking at innovation happening firsthand. How do you see is some of the observation which you're likely to pan out in the rest of the year?
Sure. So let me start by streaming. So we just put out our TMT predictions report, which we do annually, where one of the sectors we analyzed is the streaming marketplace, which is really the topic du jour. And even with the intense competition, I mean, today profitability is a challenge because everybody is in customer acquisition mode. But we do anticipate this sector growing to maybe becoming 13 to 15 billion in the next decade or so. So growing at about 22% in the short term, and then accelerating if 5G and all come in on time. So we will see significant growth there, which is really significant because we're at 7 to 9% of the Indian media entertainment industry today. But we're looking to see that this sector doubles its market share, if not more, in the short term. I think in terms of cinema, we've had a very difficult last 2-3 years because of the pandemic. But hopefully, we will start to see the sector come back. Because of streaming, I think the nature of the content that people pay for to go to the cinema will change, like we've seen it change in the West. People will pay for big spectacles, larger movies, if they're willing to shell out, for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 rupees for a family of 4. But the sector is still going to be healthy. We still anticipate it growing at 10% plus. And overall regional media, I think, is a theme that will continue to stay for the next 10, 15 years. Again, growing at between 10 to 13% overall, whether it's for print, whether it's for television overall. So I think that those are really the 3-4 themes that form the bulk of our predictions.
All right, Jehil, thanks very much for joining us and sharing your observation on this very buzzing space right now, which is media, entertainment and OTT. Thanks very much for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you, Ajay, for having me.